the thought that sneaks in first. It always starts the same way. A text that doesn't get answered, a strange noise in the car, a routine medical test, or just silence. Too much of it. And suddenly, your mind fills in the gap. Not with calm, not with logic, but with a story. The worst possible one. You imagine the breakup before it happens, the job loss before you even apply, the accident before you step outside. It's not a choice, it just arrives, uninvited, vivid, and strangely persuasive. You know it's unlikely, you might even laugh at it, a little, but still you feel it in your chest. The fear, the racing, the ache. This is what psychologists call catastrophizing, when your brain leaps toward disaster, even when there's no real evidence. But why would we do this to ourselves? Why is the worst-case scenario the one that always shows up first? The brain that grew up in danger. To understand this, you have to go back. Way back. Not decades, not centuries, but tens of thousands of years. Back to when your ancestors lived in a world of predators, hunger, and storms. Back then, worrying about worst-case scenarios wasn't a weakness. It was survival. If you heard a rustle in the tall grass, assuming it was a lion, even if it wasn't, kept you alive. If you expected famine and hoarded food, even if it didn't come, you made it through the winter. In evolution, anxiety had a purpose. It was the price of caution. The reward was life. The humans who saw the best in every situation, who assumed nothing bad would happen, often didn't survive long enough to pass on that optimism. But the anxious ones, the cautious ones, the ones who always saw what could go wrong, they stayed, they spread, they became us. Which means, your catastrophizing isn't broken. It's inherited, an old defense, living in a new world, false alarms and real responses. You know the feeling. Your phone rings unexpectedly. It's your boss, or a hospital, or an unknown number. Your stomach flips, your brain prepares. Even if everything turns out fine, and it usually does, your body doesn't wait for proof. That's because your mind evolved to treat uncertainty as danger, to prepare for the worst before checking if it's true. And the result? A life full of false alarms that feel completely real. You might lie awake at night running through scenarios that never happen. You might avoid things, people, or chances, just in case. It's exhausting, but it makes sense. Because your brain still thinks it's in the jungle, still thinks shadows might be threats, still believes it's safer to panic and be wrong than relax and be hurt. So it sets off the alarm, again and again. Even if the building isn't on fire, that's not weakness, that's wiring. When imagination turns against you, you're not just reacting to life. You're constantly imagining it. The brain is a storyteller, and its favorite genre is tragedy. You picture the car crash on the highway, the rejection before the job interview, the phone call that changes everything. This isn't just fear, it's imagination working overtime. The same part of your brain that creates art, music, and dreams also builds worst-case futures. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network, a set of brain regions active when you're not focused on the outside world. It drifts, wanders, and often, it worries. It pulls together bits of memory, emotion, and possibility. And it runs simulations, not to entertain you but to protect you. Except when it doesn't. Because sometimes, imagination stops being helpful, and starts becoming heavy. You begin to believe the scenarios it creates. You start to live in futures that never arrive. And your body responds, with stress, tension, fatigue. All from thoughts alone, the certainty addiction. Catastrophizing isn't always about fear, sometimes it's about control. Because imagining the worst gives you something. Certainty. You know the bad thing might happen. You've planned for it, you've braced yourself. It hurts less to expect disaster than to be surprised by it. That's the quiet logic underneath it all. Better to live in dread than in doubt. Better to be ready than to be caught off guard. But here's the cost. In trying to predict pain, you begin to pre-feel it. You suffer events that haven't happened. You feel grief before loss, fear before danger, failure before effort. And life becomes a rehearsal for things that may never come. You trade peace for preparation. But the storm often never arrives, and you're left soaked anyway. The brain that loves patterns, even scary ones. The human brain is a pattern-seeking machine. It connects dots, even when none exist. You have one bad relationship, and your brain says, this always happens. You forget your lines once, and your brain whispers, you always fail under pressure. It's not the event, it's the pattern your mind creates around it. This is called cognitive distortion, the mental habit of overgeneralizing, exaggerating, or filtering reality through fear. It's not deliberate, it's automatic. Because the brain would rather see a threatening pattern, and be wrong, than miss one, and be hurt. So you get stuck, seeing loops where there are none, expecting pain where there is peace. Your thoughts become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Not because the world is cruel, but because your brain is trying to protect you. In the only way it knows how.